Hello and welcome back to the Knitting Artisan podcast. I'm Cindy, your very painfully introverted host, and I want to thank you for hanging out with me while I talk about my knits and yarns that I love and projects that I've completed and planning on getting into. I'm back with a few more of my makes. So it's been a little while, and it's been really thunderstorming a lot here today, and we're also under a heat advisory here in the South. You can find me, of course I'm here on YouTube, but you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. I am also on Ravelry. I'll have all the links down below. Also, I'd like to say, be sure and hang out to the end of the podcast. Usually I have some fun things that I'm closing out the podcast with. So be sure that you watch all the way to the end. I'll usually share some of the things that I've been into, and I just love sharing those things with you. Last month, I shared that I went to Alaska, and I had such a blast, and I can't believe that I forgot to ask if I have any viewers from Alaska. I know I've had a few that started following me on Instagram. If you're from Alaska or if you have visited, I am so eager to hear about your experiences in that beautiful state. It is so majestic and beautiful. I had a wonderful time there and came away with some beautiful yarn and wonderful memories. It was quite short, but it's left an impact on my life forever. Wonderful memories that I'll always have. So with that said, let's jump right into some of the things I've been knitting. It just so happens you saw a small sneak peek of this in my Alaska episode. There was the first video or little segment that I shared from Alaska. This little project made an appearance. I started knitting on it. It was my travel knitting, one of the things that I started. But while I was on the road and watching the scenery whiz past, I was knitting on this shawl. Along with, I started that little Gramps cardigan there too, but I had a problem with my stitch count. So I set it aside and I picked up this pattern. This is a free pattern and it's called Lionberry. It's by Narniel of Endor. But look how beautiful this is. This is some gradient yarn from Twisted Fiber Arts. And I hope this shows up well. With all the lace work, you can see through it quite a bit. But this yarn is absolutely stunning. This is the Gloaming Colorway, and this is on her Arial base. This was a small evolution. Evolutions were her gradient colorways, Megs. And she shut down when COVID started, but I saw an announcement that she was firing up her dye pots again. So I hope that's true because she makes beautiful yarn. But yes, this is Lionberry, and this is in the Gloaming Colorway, and it's just absolutely beautiful. It starts out with this peach and fades down into a coral, down into fuchsia and purple and a navy blue. I love this, and I'm going to be really excited to wear this. This is a free pattern, by the way. And since we're talking about gradient yarns, and I'll show you a few more colors that I have from Twisted Fiber Art. I managed to snag a few before she closed. So this is another colorway from Twisted Fiber Arts. This is Le Cirque. Most of these are small Arial Evolution, so just look her up if you love gradient yarn, because like I said, she's dying again. So I'll just show you a few of the colorways that I have. This one is Agate. And it's such a lovely color. This is just a gradient of greens, and it starts out with an olive and, you know, just a variation of intensity with this one. And this is a light gray to a dark gray and maybe almost a black, this Lacert. Let's see, what else do I have? This one, this also looks to be like a purple that fades out into, you know, or starts out with an olive green that fades out into some purples. This is the Pond colorway. Again, a small Arial Evolution brown that fades into some greens. And this one I got a large Arial. There's 1,020 yards on this beautiful cake of yarn. This is the Disc World colorway. So brown, starts out with gray, fades into brown and green, into a teal, and into like a maybe a royal blue. And I know for a while now I've had plans to knit this. I can't remember the name of the shawl. I'm pretty sure it's a free pattern though, but it has owls in it. So I'm pretty sure that's what this is going to end up being. It's going to be a big, beautiful lace shawl. And I'll show you a couple more shawls that I have knit with Twisted Fiber Arts. Now, this is one on episodes 1 and 2. This is one that you see in the gallery in my outro. And this is by Ysolda Teague. And I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Stac, Shoiagh. I'm gonna butcher it. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it is a stunning design. But this is a beautiful gradient. I believe this is the Phantom colorway. And then with each of the scallops here, I knew I was gonna run out of yarn before I finished it. So what I did to make it last was I added a contrasting color to emphasize all of these scallops. And I chose, this is Knit Picks Stroll Fingering in the Rainforest Heather colorway. But my lighting may not do it justice, but this is, there's a beautiful photo at the end of episode 1 and 2 with this shawl. It's stunning. Ysolda has numerous beautiful patterns. And by the way, I'll show you something else of hers that I have started. After I finish, show you one more gradient shawl. Now this is Wild and Free. This was designed by Annie Lupton of Boho Fiber Chic Co. I absolutely love this colorway. Blues and greens get me. I don't remember the name of this colorway, but I know she called it a mutating variegant. Meg of Twisted Fiber Arts. I did run out at the end, so I did have to use another yarn just to finish it out, but I managed to find one that matches color really well. And so this is, you can see, of course, that this is a knit shawl, but the border, that is a crochet border. So you fiber artists out there that know how to knit and crochet, this will scratch both of those itches. But it's a beautiful, beautiful shawl. I was on a streak of knitting gnomes. I did a trade with a friend out of Virginia and sent her the gnomes, and you saw those in episode 3. Well, my daughter loved those so much that she wanted some, so of course I had to knit some gnomes for my daughter. So these are all, once again, never not gnoming. This is Norbert. There are 3 different gnomes in the pattern. This is by Schira of Imagined Landscapes. So this is the big gnome. Once again, if you didn't see episode 3, this is stuffed with fiberfill. You start at the top and you knit down. You stuff it with fiberfill, and the bottom is stuffed with lentil beans to give it weight so he can stand up. And then you can see, maybe you can see the decreases. It's almost like hat decreases that you close up down there. So this is Norbert, and I believe I knit Natasha. I didn't knit the ornament. I wanted both of these, all of these, to be able to just stand up. So this is one of the smaller gnomes, and I knit 2 of them. I hope my lighting is okay. I had to record later in the day, and it is a little bit darker with all the thunderstorms that we've had coming through. But yeah, these are the 3 of them together. So now my daughter is going to be really excited that I can hand off all these little gnomes to her. I also knit another one. My niece offered to knit one for my niece. She had a wonderful idea to just stuff it all with something that could be heated in the microwave and be used as, you know, one of those warming pillows, and also kind of like a stress, you know, squeeze it for stress. So it was a fabulous idea. So I stuffed hers entirely with lentil beans, with the exception of the hat, and I put fiberfill in the hat. This is another project of hers that I find absolutely beautiful. These are a pair of colorwork mittens. These are Myleet. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And this is all Knit Picks palette yarn. I don't remember the colors exactly. I think this is, I take that back. This is not Knit Picks. This is Cascade 220 in the sport weight. This is a navy color. So that's one color that I'm using. And then this gold color and a cream. So these are all the colors that are going in these. I don't have much left before this will be finished. Mittens go fairly quickly, but as if you've heard many of my podcasts, you know I start projects and get diverted with baby gifts and other things that come up. And I'm noticing my fan is squeaking. I hope it's not terribly distracting, but once again, we're under a heat advisory in the south, so this fan is helping keep me cool. But anyway, so this is what it looks like on. And so I just have to finish the top and then knit the thumb, and it will be done. I have already completed one pair that there are pictures on my Instagram of them. So if I remember, I'll try to post a picture of those. My friend wanted purple, so everything is the same with these, with the exception of purple. But these are intended to be super warm. As you know, color work is already really warm because of the thickness of the yarn with all the floats. But she has you knit a double thickness cuff, and then you turn your work inside out, and then you knit ribbing. So it really snugs down over your wrist. So they're really warm. It's a very clever design. But this is just really beautiful color work with this like a Selbu type star patterning that goes around the cuff. And then the last thing I have to share with you this time, I've got one work in progress, and you saw it in episode 4. I so love this. This is the La Bien Aimee yarn that I purchased in Alaska from Far North Yarn Co. I purchased 2 hanks, and the base is Merino. called Merino DK, but it's more like a worsted weight. But this is the Dusk colorway. And I hope you can see how beautiful this yarn is. It's kind of like, there's like some pale pinks and purples in there, down into some deeper dusky purples with specklings of this raspberry rust and blues and greens. And just like I promised I was going to do, I am fading down into a solid color. And I'll post a picture of what the designer's photo of her version of it looks like. This, again, this is Little Trees by Melanie Rice. And so I don't want the trees to get lost in the speckling. So I'm fading down into Cascade 220 in the Iridescent colorway. And the way I did this fade, I actually am doing some color work. Let me get to a part where it might be a little less heavy to hold and secure my stitches. Okay. So what I'm doing is, rather than putting solid stripes, I opted to put one stitch of the iridescent purple every 3 stitches. I'm having trouble being able to hold this because this has gotten quite heavy. This is going to be a big shawl. I did modify it, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, so I started out with putting 3 stitches of the iridescent every 3 stitches in amongst the Dusk colorway. Maybe if I hold it this direction. So it's going to be upside down. And then I knit a solid row of Dusk. And once again, I staggered the iridescent colorway every 3 stitches. Did that for about 6 rows. And then every other stitch, I put iridescent and Dusk all the way across. So there's just about 8 rows of color work there. You can see my floats. And what I did modify this because I wanted to use up as much of the Dusk colorway as I possibly could, and I wanted a really big shawl. So I put, and you can see here, I've got some stitch markers here. I added just more rows, and with this particular pattern you have to end up with a multiple of 10 stitches plus 2 on each side of the spine, and that meant that for each repeat I had to add an additional 20 rows. So I ended up with an additional 60 rows before I started fading in the iridescent colorway. So this is going to be a really big, cozy, squishy shawl. And don't you just love that these big shawls like this, they're essentially, you know, like, you get to call it a shawl, but you're essentially walking around with a blanket. So I love that. So those are my knitting updates for episode 5. It's been a busy month of June here. I ended up, our family suffered a little bit of a loss this time. We had 2 dogs and 2 cats. Well, now we're down to 1 dog and 2 cats. My Japanese chin, Ollie, or Oliver, we ended up calling him Ollie, and he wound up with nicknames like Ollie Pop and Ali Baba and Muhammad Ali, affectionately. But he was a wonderful, faithful, loyal, always happy friend. And we had to put him down because he was suffering with kidney failure. So maybe I'll find a place to tuck in some pictures of Ollie, and maybe our little Mia. She's one of Ollie's offspring. She's a Chinchi. She's all of 3 pounds and has an attitude that's bigger than Texas. And then 2 cats that my daughter wanted and loved, and so we've made room for them too. Poppy and Stormy, in which Poppy is a orange tabby, and Stormy, we ended up calling her Blue Kitty quite a bit. She's a Russian blue. Poppy just has a big personality, and Stormy is quite docile and sweet and just beautiful. They're both beautiful cats. So again, if you're from Alaska or have visited, I would love to hear all about what it's like to live in Alaska and the beautiful things you've seen. It's an amazing state. And if you haven't ever been and you're looking for somewhere to travel, I highly recommend Alaska. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye for now, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Be sure to leave a comment and a like and subscribe. Once again, I want to remind you about the giveaway that's happening once I get to 1,000 subscribers. All the details are in episode 2 for that. Christy's Fiber Arts has so generously donated a beautiful hank of her hand-dyed yarn and a couple other goodies. And I'm also going to toss something else in too, but I'll share that with you later on. Bye for now. So you heard in the episode that we recently lost our little Japanese chin, Ollie. So I thought I would take a few minutes just to share Ollie and our other little animals, because they do become such a part of our family. And so you'll see captions of some of their other names and of some of their shenanigans. I would love for you to also talk about your little fur babies in the comments, because they do become such a part of the family. And with that, I'll share our little animal family with you now.